Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Fons. Started at the first slide. I have a different background than Lillian. I started my education in mechanical engineering at the University of Eindhoven, which I graduated, but during my study I was always looking for visiting the design academy. At that time it was the Academy of Industrial Design in Eindhoven. Because my uncle was working there in the workshop, he was one of these teachers in crafts, in making metal products. So and he invited me a couple of times, oh, you should come over here and see what we're doing. I think it's something for you. Well, indeed it was something for me, but it took me 6 years to finish my education on mechanical engineering, and then I started doing industrial design. And the education, well, at least the school, changed from Academy of Industrial Design to the Design Academy, which is known today. I started my career, so to say, just in the industry. I was a mechanical engineer. I started at Fokker Space and Systems, working on rocket science things. Later on, I worked for Volvo, for car handling and such, but that was not really my thing. It was nice to be involved as an engineer in these kind of engineering systems, but I started later on more to work towards industrial design. I started with a small company, and later on I evolved my career more or less in the industrial design scene. And at a certain point, I decided to go for my own. And recently, I'm still working on one of these projects, but this is just a brief overview of my work in the last years, which is interior designs for ferry boats. I did some education myself at the university. I worked at Philips. Yes, somehow you end up at Philips in Eindhoven. And I was an innovation consultant for a couple of years, facilitating creativity to technologists, engineers and such. And I did some projects in the States for color kinetics, which is responsible for the Empire State Building, lighting, etc. But these are just some snapshots of my work during my whole career. But I'm going more into that in one particular project, which is a project called, we call it Bolderwagen, but it's something like this kind of beach cart. And I'm always fascinated by things that have perceived by many people as a low value product. To me as a designer, that's an opportunity to create something more valuable. Because I think adding design to a product or in a particular way, it adds value. So I picked some kind of assignment for myself, because this is a quite traditional product known in Holland, Germany, at least in my area of the world. And I thought, well, this is a kind of product that might be interesting to pick it up as a designer. Can I add some design value to this kind of product? And to make more out of it than just 4 wheels and a wooden box. Well, it took me some time to get it done, but my first inspiration was actually this Dutch architect, which is Gerrit Rietveld. He lived almost a century ago. The funny thing is, he's well known for this chair. Who knows this chair? Ever seen this chair? Yeah. Okay. Well, I take that as good. Yeah, this is one of his iconic designs. But he also made something like this, and that's what fascinates me about this design, because it's completely different than what I've seen before. And this is done by an architect, interior designer, furniture designer. And what intrigues me is how does this work? Because it's all sticks, and he made it work. And as a mechanical engineer, there's a big advantage in this design, which is it has a better ergonomics. It's easier to tow because the
starting point of the stack is on the upside, and most of the designs are on the lower end. And if you know something about forces and vector diagrams, then there's a lot of force going in upper direction instead of the forward direction. So that's why all the old-fashioned designs are the heavier to tow. And this one actually, it looks more clumsy, but actually this is easier to tow. So I took that as a starting point. But because all these designs have a very solid, are solidly built. They are from wood, and the next thing after when you see a product that's very solid, it has to become flexible. So my challenge was, how can I create something that is flexible? Because that is lighter, you can fold it, because all these disadvantages of these kind of wooden cards, I add them up. Because it's heavy to tow, it's very heavy in weight, it's bulky, it occupies a lot of space, all these kind of things. I took that as a challenge to change them, because a lot of people are having some kind of love-hate relationship with these kind of products. They feel the pressure to buy these things when they have small kids, because at some point these kids are too small for a bike and too big for a stroller. So they would like to have a day out. So instead of carrying them around, they put them in such kind of wagon. So having it foldable would be welcome, because most people traveling by car instead of going somewhere just by foot. So somehow it should be foldable, and that's a different challenge than just making something similar with the same kind of characteristics. So I picked up the challenge to make it flexible. So I lead you through, in big steps through my development process. And I think I can refer to Kyle's approach. There's a lot of back and forth, and I don't know where it ends up to, because I thought, well, I can do it, I can solve this. But at this point, I had no clue. So I started to demount a camping table and with some tape to find out, okay, can I get some strength, something that is flexible, because it has some contradiction. It's flexible, how can it be strong? But if you make it circular and you press on the inside, then the cloth becomes strong, and that gives some rigidity to the shape. And I took that as a starting point, but because there is nothing available which has this kind of shape, this kind of size. So I was just trying to figure it out with some duct tape and some tubing to find a way, does it work or not? And painfully, no, it didn't work. So I had to do another one. I cheated a little bit here. But it should work, because there are some devices which I couldn't find it back on Google, but it was in my mother's kitchen drawer. There's the kitchen again. And there was some kind of, what's the English word for? Colander, which was foldable, and it has that kind of principle that it's a metal woven outside with a lot of, and on the inside there's some kind of mechanism that you can put inwards so that the outside becomes strong. And that was really interesting, and that was actually the starting point. But there is no picture on Google. That's amazing, actually. So the next thing is, okay, I could get it done by just mimicking with an easy way. So I had to do a big investment, buy some tubing and create something with rapid prototyping, so that it starts the first shape that I had in mind. There's a lot of PVC tubing here to mimic the shape and to see the product, how it evolves in its in a more mature shape. So the idea was some kind of chassis, circular frame on top, and in between, well, there's something should be happening here. But at that time, I failed in the easy way. So I contacted a small firm, and they made a piece, a flexible tub from tarpaulin. And well, that although there was a lot of wrinkling and such, but it was pretty promising because I could demonstrate that if you put this upwards and you put some tension on the cloth, that it really becomes solid. So from here, I started investing more in rapid prototyping. So these are just 4 corners. On the top side, you see all the white stuff that's made from SLS, by SLS technology, and well, give more detail to the product. And also, a different kind of systems has to be tested because it should be foldable, and this is still rigid. So I had to prove myself that it can be foldable to a flat package, because in the back of my mind it should be carried around in a car, by car firstly, and then you take it out and then pop it up and make your walk. So in the end, this was my first final prototype. I discovered I had to do a complete investment to make everything as real as possible. So I couldn't mimic it anymore because the problem was a little bit too complex at that time. And yeah, but I think I succeeded in some way because that was the next step. This was my first prototype, and I said, okay, I think we're pretty close to a final design, and let's make a final or make a new prototype, which is the red one. And yes, it was foldable. Not in the most fashionable way, but yes, it was foldable. And there were a lot of difficult solutions I created. But still, the basic principle was there. I could make it foldable. It's easy towable. The upper side, the starting point is still there. It has 4 wheels, which keeps on the corners, not moving underneath the chassis so that it will tip over at a certain point. Everything should be solved because I would like to have a decent towable car. But it was far too complex. It cost me a fortune, and I had to redo it all again. The basic principle of this foldable piece is that the bottom plate was divided by 4 pieces, and I could, by a loop, I could pull it up, and everything collapses down. But there was too much wrinkling, and the strength was not secure up the top. So I had to redesign the whole structure. Anyway, you saw the black one. It has a new kind of mechanism, and that was very promising, that kind of mechanism. Well, in the end I decided, okay, we can redo the whole design, and it ends up in the blue one. And actually this is still the actual way of folding it. So when you take it out of the bag, it's packed like this. You pop it up with this kind of stand mechanism. You push it outwards, and because now the bottom is just a rigid plate, everything becomes more solid, and it's much easier to manufacture. Still, there are a lot of plastic parts involved. These are also rapid prototypes in this piece. And the idea was what you see as packed in the bag is when you pop it up, everything is in here. So the bag could be split up in two, so that you have more convenient bag sizes. Still, they're quite bulky, but it's more convenient, and you can use them to pack more stuff in there. And in the end, what's in the bag was actually the card. And this is actually, well, hopefully the future habitat of this card. Well, having this place on the beach or anywhere out there in the outdoor. And well, the reason why I'm here is there was a very little opportunity here to get it produced. I spent years to get some funding, find investors, find manufacturers, but well, at some point they were not very convinced that this would be the biggest next thing. Most investors are interested in, well, electronics, at least in the area of Eindhoven. This kind of products are not very fashionable for investors. So they are looking for investments in websites, electronics, smart devices and such. So for me, actually, well, at some point it was discouraging me, but I found an opportunity here in Taiwan, because there's a very mature bicycle industry, and well, this has the complexity of a bike. And there's a very big bag manufacturing industry here in Taiwan as well, which is needed for the top. And I did some Alibaba research, and I found two lovely wheel suppliers located in Bali, in Taichung. So I thought, well, maybe, and of course, because Lillian got the invitation to come over for the exhibition, for the Brainport exhibition, and do a creative residence here. Well, at that time, I said, okay, I come join you, and I will explore the opportunity if Taiwan could provide me this card in a small batch as a startup company. So actually, you can see my story on Tumblr blog, and well, this is my supplier right now in Daja, which is a bike manufacturer, a bike frame manufacturer. These are my friends from the bag manufacturer. This is located here in Banqiao. It's an injection molder, and I spent some time last year here in Taipei City to get this done, to start it up. So this is one of the alleys. I don't know if you recognize this one, but it's near the garment district. So this gives you an impression of who is interested in my project. They can visit the Tumblr blog of Kivoka and see how this project is evolving. And well, we're very close to shipping right now the first parts, and there's still some parts that need to be done in Holland, but the bigger parts will be manufactured here in Taiwan. So yeah, I think that's, for me at least, a big achievement, so that this can be presented hopefully for the summertime, and people could enjoy this, using this card. Yeah. As I said, you can follow me on Tumblr. But actually, this is my 2 cents for this presentation. I don't know if there is any question regarding this project.
Any question?
Okay, think about it. All right, so as Lillian said, we have a 3 presentations in one. First, we present ourselves a little bit to tell you what kind of designers we are, what our interests are, what our capabilities are. And during the last day together, which was last year, we got an invitation to join a 3D project, 3D printing project. And actually, that's the next presentation, telling you a little bit about why we came to the design we created. Well, we were desperately looking for something new. It's, well, something that we don't want to do, explore a field that has been done so many times. And it's obvious for us, well, the beauty of rapid prototyping, lighting, medical devices, things like that. These are explored in extensive ways, even character designs, anything that's difficult. But sometimes we would like to push ourselves a little bit further than that. And we got fascinated by, well, hacking things. We believe that we can change actually the experience of existing brands by adding something that's something from yourself, coming from yourself. So you have to buy accessories from a certain brand. And so to give you some impressions where these kind of well, things are hacked in some way, and the first, well, actually this is a kind of inspiration we would like to share before we will demonstrate our piece. So you see in the dentist world, or in the dentist world, I don't know what's the English word, whatever, dentist world. Recovery of bones, adjustments to the body. These kind of things are very common in the industry. But it's also hacking things can be fun. So these are more or less serious applicational fields. But it's also fun if you hack something, then it becomes more, well, something from yourself. You bring something to life that never existed before. And this is, well, not really prototyping in the sense of plastic printing, but this is, well, using a paint can, and it can blow a small mill. It can make some music, or it can mimic some kind of party. I think, who of you have ever heard of hacking IKEA?
Yeah.
Yeah? Hacking IKEA? Okay, well this is one of them. Well, what can you do with a small stool, wooden stool? Well, you can make a bicycle with that. A lot of hobbyists have a lot of fun in combining two worlds, the world of toys and the world of more mature equipment, because they need some kind of adapter or an adjuster or something that, well, helps them to get the job done. And this is a kind of, well, mechano, toyish tool that can be interacted with something that is existing in a completely different way of using it. So if you would like to have a stand for a camera, you can build it yourself, or even this is a robot. Subaru is more kind of plastic that you can sculpt yourself such that you can make any adapter you want as to repair things or make it more ergonomically or for any purpose you think is fun. I think this is the Subaru as well, is it? Yep. This is actually a quite recent design from the student, and he created a modular system which you can order at a website like Serialize or what's the other one? Okay, like Materialize or any 2D printing company, and you can build your own device. But he prepared some of the shapes, so you can combine different kind of elements, and you create a fan or a lamp or anything that is possible to build with these kind of elements. And these are rapid prototyped as well. And if if you think of an adapter, you would like to combine anything with anything. And it ends up in something, well, it's fascinating how this adapter looks like, but it's not very convenient. So it's more or less for the fun of it. But as I said, the kitchen is one of the most important places in our house. And I don't know if you have seen the small KitchenAid on the kitchen desk on the picture Lillian showed. But we have such a kind of machine at our home. And one of the things that fascinates us is that if you put it on, there's always a shaft on top turning. But it's turning without any purpose. So if you are making a dough or anything else, if you use the... Oh, there's the next picture. So in the bowl, most of the activity is with the bowl. And if you have some kind of pasta maker or a slicer, a meat slicer, anything that has to be put at the front side, where the silver button is located behind. If you take off that button, there's always a shaft turn. So we thought, okay, that spoils energy. So can we make use of that particular feature of this device? So we came up to combine different kind of products, which are the very cheap ones, which you can buy at Hans Table here in Taiwan. For a couple of bucks, you can buy this kind of device, because this is very eco-friendly, because it's man-powered. But if you combine that with the energy loss of the KitchenAid, maybe we can create something new. But before you can use it, combine these two, you need some kind of interface. And maybe that's the kind of interaction design we did. To make a device that is always fitting into the KitchenAid, but specifically made to put it on the front side, so that you can take off the shaft and you can make use of the mechanical power of the KitchenAid. So this is that point, that's the adapter I created for one of the paper shredders I bought at the Hans Table, which is just a small plastic paper shredder. But also the apple peeler. And I created a new adapter for the apple peeler to carry this device and put it in front of the kitchen. And the common piece is actually this part, because red prototyping, it's not only nice to create very complex things, but it is also an opportunity to combine different kind of elements in one piece. So when you take it out of the machine, you can create something that's rotating or something inside another shape. And that principle is used in here. So the shaft and the housing is just done in one time. So I don't have to do any assembly afterwards. It comes out ready-made, so just plug and play. And the tolerances nowadays are very, very small. So it's just tens of millimeters, there's some space, instead of when, well, just more on the mechanical side again, my background. So it runs quite neatly. So there is not a lot of vibration because of the accuracy of the machines today. As said, well, this part is kind of universal. The shaft in the middle, and what's happening in the front, that's particular, specifically designed for the product we would like to put in front of the kitchen. So he came up with a knitting machine, So some people say, well, did you design the knitting machine yourself as well? No. That's just, we bought this at the Hans Taylor again for a couple of bucks. And we thought, well, it's nice to have a knitting feature available for this particular kitchen machine. So you see over there, you plug it in, you prepare the knitting machine, and you put it on the machine, and off you go. That's the last one. So I think we are ready for the demonstration.